Hi everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Mental Brew Podcast. So today I have Peter Higgins on with me. So Peter, thanks for coming, bud.
Thanks, Dennis. Glad to be here. Looking forward to our chat.
Absolutely. So for those listening, Peter is a learning development manager with a massive multi-million euro company. So Peter's going to go into details of that with us, his journey so far, maybe a few other interesting insights that he can share. So Peter, starting off, why do you do what you do?
So I suppose my why I do it is just I suppose I love the development part of it. I suppose taking you back from my journey originally, how it started. I suppose it's a bit of a diverse landscape I've had in my career.
Yeah,
My 20s really weren't I wasn't focusing on working really. It was a lot of traveling involved. I lived in America for a couple of years in Boston. Um, Came back from there. I'm going to show my age here now, Dennis, but it wasn't long after September the 11th,
okay,
which was crazy to see.
yeah,
Actually, on the day that happened, I was working right next to Logan Airport where the planes flew out of. So it was, and I was in Boston, so it was, Boston got hit hard by that. Of course, they didn't have, but because there was casualties coming from Boston, they
yeah,
really felt that. And it was kind of a hard place to live there after that. Especially for us illegal Irish immigrants at the time. We couldn't travel, we couldn't kind of do anything. So I kind of came back from there. Came back, I think it was around November.
Hmm.
Lasted a week back in Ireland after having been there for 2 years, and went to Spain for 6 months. So worked out in Spain, done a winter out in Spain. Um, and came back from Spain maybe in March or April, and then kind of fell into working again. I kind of got into the logistics industry,
Hmm.
set up with a company here in Cork, and eventually became their warehouse manager. Kind of worked there for maybe a year or two. Interested enough role, but again got the travel bug again.
Yeah,
Said this time I'm heading to Australia. Sold all my possessions.
wow.
I traveled to Southeast Asia first. Spent a month in Southeast Asia. Did not want to leave. Ended up spending probably close to a year traveling all around Southeast Asia. Not making it to Australia and coming back to coming back again to Cork. So I just rather real like a year out. Kind of.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose it was nice to meet different cultures, listen to different mindsets, and I suppose this has helped me on my journey to becoming learning and development. And it's only, I
Hmm.
suppose, when you think back now of where I am now to having those experiences, I do see that. So when I came back, I got back into logistics. I was a warehouse manager for a water company here, and I was in a bad car crash, and I was kind of I was out of work for about 6 months from it.
Hmm.
In the meantime, I had started playing poker in the local casino here just as a pastime, just for a bit of fun once a week, whatever. But I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the mental aspect of the game, the strategic thinking and those kind of stuff in it. So while I was lying in bed, I broke up from the accident. I started playing online poker, and it went really well. For the first 6 months, I
Yeah.
was probably making more than I would have in a year or two in the salary in the job. So I
Wow.
said, let's give this a bash. Let's see if we can do this as a living. Um, I ended up going to Vegas, playing some World Series of Poker events. Um, didn't do really good in those. Came back, was running kind of low on cash at this point, and
Yeah.
saying, okay, well, this dream may be over. And I won a big Irish championship here in Cork, actually. So that kept me going. And yeah, for the next 3, 4, 5 years, I played poker professionally. I won another Irish championship here, but mainly played online. Ended up getting sponsored by a company to play, so they would give me money to play on their sites, and I would split whatever I made kind of 50-50 with them. So there was no real intake for me. But after, I think it was maybe 2008, 2009, maybe 2010, the games just got a lot tougher. There was less money around. So back in the Celtic Tiger, there was loads of money. People would go and put 150, 200 quid into play poker. You were playing with just, part-time players who would just play for fun. So you weren't playing with so many pros. So it was easier to make a lot more money then. But then once the banking crisis hit, and there was less money, less expendable cash in people's pockets, then you were just playing against the cream of the crop. Really, it was all very much professionals. Now I could mix it with those, but I didn't think it was a good way to be.
Yeah.
So it just became more of a stress. It was harder, and I just ended up going back to work. Now at this point, I'm 5 or 6 years out of work. Never been to college, never have done anything along those lines. So I got a job with Irish Water in a call center here in Cork, just to end up paying bills, really, really small money. But it gave me a really good lesson in life, and in I suppose Irish Water at the time was the most hated company in Ireland. Like really hated. It was really tumultuous time there, I suppose. Lucky for me, I got a job in the escalations department, which kept us extremely busy. I ended up heading that department. So I was at one point dealing with the worst calls for the worst company in Ireland. So kind of it gave me a lesson in empathy, and how to be clear, concise, but empathetic in your message to people, and understand people's frustrations. We were dealing with people that, Dennis, were after losing their jobs, their livelihoods, things like that. Irish Waters were trying to hit them with another charge, as well as USD was after coming, as well as all these different charges, property tax, things like that. Like we could sit here all day, and I could tell you, numerous stories about people, and they had a hard, and this was breaking people, like completely breaking people. So high pressure situations, a lot of those calls, but you get a good understanding for empathy. And my cousin's wife was working where I'm working now. We're one of the largest custodian banks, working in the investment fund industry. And there was a role came up there. I applied for it. I got it. That was 10 years ago in May. And I started working in the operational teams here. Worked up to a associate vice president in one of the operational teams, which was like a team leader as such. And as I was growing within the role, I started kind of looking at the problems that we have within the organization in terms of training, and how we can put training solutions into those problems. So I suppose they may have saw a role for me in some sort, and a role came up as the learning and development coordinator for that for operational teams, which covered various different locations, like Singapore, some teams in Singapore, some teams in Luxembourg and in Cork. And I went for it, I got it, and from there I just kind of tried to drive the mentality of efficiencies, tried to drive innovation. And of course, for me, the most important part of this is soft skills.
The
development of people, developing people, not just professionally, but personally as well, and how can we create good habits in people? How can we make have people come away with a positive mindset? How can we increase people's emotional intelligence? So yeah, and since then I've grown. The role has grown. I have a team, and yeah, it's really good. It's really good, and I suppose personally, I'm also a boxing coach up at Mayfield Boxing Club, which I absolutely love. To be able to give back to the community that I grew up in, and as you know, with boxing, a lot of the kids that go into boxing are kids that other sports don't want. There can be, so just to be able to give back that and try and put some structure in some people's lives and try again to develop those people into not just Irish champions, but into good human beings. That's it. Sorry for such a long answer.
No, it's really interesting. There's loads to pick out. And just going back to the traveling bug, how do you think traveling shaped you? Because I'll be honest, I would have loved to have done more traveling. The only thing I really did was a J1 in San Diego for 2 or 3 months. It was unbelievable. But like looking back, it's something I would love to have done more of, and definitely with Donncha now, so of Donncha, our new little boy here. It's something I would encourage him to do. Absolutely, I think it'd be brilliant for him. How did it shape you? And like, how did it? So like, sometimes we grow up right here. You have to go to college, or you have to get a trade, or you have to be working as soon as you finish school. Whereas, I suppose you went and lived life and worked really, really hard to get where you are. But like, how was the traveling kind of shaped, do you think?
Oh, it shaped me massively. Well, one thing I learned straight off the bat is I don't ever want to work on a building site. So from working in America, in Boston, you have proper seasons of the year.
Yeah.
So like in the winter, digging snow off a roof, working with carpenters, it's not where I wanted to be. But in the
Yeah.
summer, I worked as a painter and I was outside and it was beautiful and it was nice. But then sometimes you're inside, sanding someone's
Mm.
plastering and you're just covered in white face and it's. But I suppose mentally and in terms of developing me as a human being, it was just great to see other people's cultures.
Mm.
A diverse range of people, understanding as well that how hard some people have it. I remember one story there where I was in, so when I was traveling to Southeast Asia, my base was Koh Samui in
Mm.
Thailand, a beautiful tropical island. You just couldn't be in a nicer place in the world.
Yeah.
It's so tropical now, Dennis, that when you fly into Koh Samui, your bags come on a baggage thing made of bamboo. So it's just so picturesque. But like every month, I had to get my visa stamped, so that would be my call. So say every like last week of every month meant I
Yeah.
was going to travel somewhere new. But like as well as some beautiful places where I seen in Vietnam and I seen in Malaysia and places like that. I also seen some really bad stuff. Like I was in Burma one time and people just like we had to, like thinking about it now, it was so dodgy what we done. Like I busted across Thailand, went into Burma. We handed some randomer passport. We were put on this little ship. We were dragged around this little cove. Like you wouldn't go on a ship now if like this ship now if it was up Mayfield swimming pool you wouldn't have got into it. It was, but like and like just going around the cove, and there was just so much people, like so much poverty there.
Yeah.
Like even in the likes of the bigger cities, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, people begging on the street with like no legs, one arm,
Yeah.
like just and I suppose that shapes you to understanding what's important in life.
Yeah.
Um, now I think I got my greatest importance in life from Holly, my daughter.
Yeah.
Like that gave me that gave me purpose in
Yeah.
life, you know. Like now I knew exactly what I was put on this earth for, is to become a father. But seeing these experiences and seeing these kind of, you know, like people who aren't just as lucky as you,
Yeah.
because and we're all guilty of it, Dennis. Like we're all guilty of, you know, feeling bad because you got a parking ticket, or feeling bad or stressing because of the traffic. But when you kind of put it in people's shoes, like, look what's going on in Lebanon, look what's
Yeah.
going on in, you know, in different parts of the world at the moment, and what they're going through, and you know, like our problems are really, really first world problems, you know. And look, everyone's problem is different, and you know, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't go around feeling sorry for myself, or feeling problems
Mm.
here, first world problems. But you know, if I can put myself in the mindset to think back of those different cultures that I've seen, then usually it can try and take me out of that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And what if now Holly gets to the age where she might be bitten by the traveling bug and she said, Dad, I want to travel to Australia or Southeast Asia. How would you feel about
Oh, I'll pay for a ticket. You know, it's a must for
that?
me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, well, I even see it here now where I'm working. You know, especially after COVID.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these young professionals, you know, they didn't get a chance to travel. They
Yeah.
didn't get, and is especially a really, I think that COVID was worse for those 17, 18, 19 year olds than anyone else.
Yeah, it
I
was.
understand that the elderly were scared, and, you know, some of them were left alone, and, you know, people weren't calling them and all that. But you try to think of the development years of your 17, 18, 19, they're probably the best years of your life, you
Yeah.
know? Like, people are going to college, you know, like, they're missing Freshers Week, they're
Yeah.
missing, you know, their sports, they're missing being able to travel, and like all those really, you know, helping your development as a human being. And you know, I really felt sorry for that. And we seen it here as soon as everything started back opening. We couldn't keep people in the building because everyone was going traveling. You know,
Yeah.
we actually had a real problem with staff retention here. Now that has calmed down, thank God. And look, where I work is a fantastic place to work, but you can't not get the traveling bug out of people, no matter how
Yeah.
good a job is. If someone wants to leave, and they're going to leave, and we could see it big time after COVID, that everyone, all of that young 22, 23, 24, 25 year olds, a lot of them left and went, you know.
And
So yeah, look, what I would say to Ali is, go do it, and you know, your 20s
yeah.
you're still in your development years, and I know I use the word development a lot, but there you're still in your development years at those ages, and that is when the time when you're in your 30s, you're probably thinking as kids, and
Mm.
mortgages and those kind of things. But and that I can all wait till till your 30s. You know, you don't
Yeah. Yeah.
have to do that in your 23. So
And do you now obviously you've got ties here now, so you're obviously a dad, you're in your job 10 years, but do you still have the traveling bug and how do you appease that? Like would you try and go away for like long holidays? Is it you've kind of done it, you're happy enough, or what way do you operate?
yeah, well, look, I suppose I have a plan, and that's going to keep me focused on my outputs. You know,
Yeah.
so my plan is that I want to live in Spain when I'm probably, you know,
Class.
10 to 15, in the next 10 to 15 years. I just like warm weather, and that's the plan. I want to get Holly in to do whatever she'd like to do, whether that is, you know, college, whether that is traveling, whether that is, you know, whatever she'd like to do. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that she's okay with that, and from there, yeah, I that's and that's kind of keeping me focused. You know, like, I suppose as you get older, like, the thoughts of staying in hostels and doing all that
Mm.
backpacking now is just sounds like torture to me, to be honest
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Now my holidays consist of sitting on a deck chair and drinking a mojito, and, you know, reading a book, listening to a podcast, listening to your podcast.
Brilliant. Fair play, yeah. Fair play for the plug.
So yeah, so look, for that, yeah, look, and who doesn't like traveling? You know, like,
Yeah.
my last two holidays now were spent with Holly as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old on her own. And
Class.
to be honest with you, this year I need a Peter holiday. Yeah. So, well, like again, I have a couple of plans about that. Like I've never seen. I'd love to drive from Germany right through Switzerland into the back of Italy and go through all those little picturesque Swiss towns in the Alps.
Class.
Or I'd like to do 10 to 15 days in Japan. Because it's a culture that I'm interested in and I've never seen, and I'd say it would be just a fantastic trip. So yeah, look, I'd be hoping to kind of. I still have the bug, but
Yeah.
not the responsibilities just getting in the way, don't they?
Yeah. And where I don't know we're talking about traveling and we get into career in detail
Yeah,
as
that's all
well, right?
right.
But where did that come from? Like, because I would have been, this was especially when I was young, right? Wouldn't have been the deepest thinker about things. I'd kind of get on with things and do things, right? And I knew what I liked and I knew what I didn't like. And I suppose it's as I got older, even saying what you said there now about the little Swiss towns that would be class.
Mm.
Where did the bug come from, do you think? What kind of instilled that in you? Was it parents? Was it friends, family? What was
I'd say it could be my parents because I was never once brought on a holiday when I was younger. Look, I used to go over with my mother to Leicester to our
Yeah,
sisters and stuff, but we were never one for foreign holidays.
yeah,
Um, like my parents were great providers, and I suppose they might have saw going on a holiday as, that money could be
yeah,
spent elsewhere on something else. So yeah, like my sisters moved to San Francisco when I was younger. Like there's a big difference between me and my sisters. So my sister Bernadette, I think, is 11 years older than me, and my other sister Donna is 12 or 13 years
yeah,
older than me. So like I was kind of, they were gone out of the house when they were like, Bernadette moved to London when she was
yeah,
18. Donna moved to Dublin when she was 18. And they both met up then in San Francisco and lived there for a while, for a long time. So I was kind of brought up as an only child at that point because
yeah.
I was,
Okay,
8 or 9 when they left the nest, and
yeah,
I'm young. So yeah, I think it was maybe not seeing those places when I was younger, and and just like when I went to Boston, it was the most spur of the moment decision, still to this day, I've ever made. I
yeah,
was walking through town, and there was I think it is a Barter's Travel that used to be next to Doyle's. You remember the bar there, Doyle's on
yeah,
Main?
yeah.
And I was walking past, and I was just after getting a credit card. I was only 18. I was working in Musgraves at the time,
Yeah.
in the chill department out there, and I had a good job, I was on good money and whatnot out there for the time, and but I just wasn't happy, like it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wasn't, it was just a job, and you're 18, and I just went in and I booked a ticket for Boston. I knew nobody.
Wow.
I Nobody was going with me, and I just booked the ticket. I think it was like a month and a half to go, and I just said, you know what, I'm gone. I'm just going to do something different. I got a number to a guy. My cousin gave me a number to a guy who was out there. He said, "Give me a ring when I get to Boston." Gave him a ring. He told me meet me in a bar. I was only 19 walking into the bar. I was 21. I still chanced my arm for a bottle of Budweiser, and I got it. And he put me up for a couple of days, and before I knew it, 4 or 5 of my friends were after flying out to me, and they ended up being 30 or 40 of us from Mayfield out there, and there's still
Class.
two of my very, very good friends. One of my best friends that I grown up with, he's out there now. He's doing so well for himself,
Yeah.
has a family, house, pool, living the American dream,
Yeah.
and delighted for him. Uh, but yeah, so that was just complete randomness. It wasn't that it was like I was saving and this was something that was planned. It was just walking through town one day on my own. I just went in and booked a ticket.
That's mad. And even to bring you back to that now, right? So you're in the airport, you're close to boarding a flight. Like, was there any doubts going, geez, Peter, you're mad here now to go,
No, never
ah,
once.
brilliant.
No. Um, No, I just when I was young, I just used I enjoyed life,
Yeah,
and just always tried to get the maximum out of what I was doing, and live life to the fun. And look, I came home that day and my parents killed me because I had a great job, and
yeah, yeah,
look, and if I didn't go on that trip, I'd probably be working in Musgraves today.
yeah,
I'd probably still be there because I would have been brought on full time. It would have been a really good, well paid job. I would have been, working there, and like to this day, I would probably still be there. At the time, was one of the greatest places to get into around
yeah.
Cork.
Really good. Yeah.
It was in the 90s, so. Um, but yeah, look, I try not to live with no, and we all look. I have many regrets about things I've done in the past, but when it comes to stuff like that, I try and live with no regrets.
That's brilliant. And just to, we definitely get back to the poker thing, but in terms of learning development, right? So,
Yeah.
why is it important, or is it important for businesses to do it? Like, what's the benefit? So, if I now I know the scale of your company is different to maybe a smaller, family-owned business in Cork, right? But if the bosses says, look, we're going to Dennis in, he's hired to do job X. Look, he turns up, he does his job, grand. Like, why spend the money on the extra stuff for the staff or whatever it be? Like, I suppose, what's the benefit do you see in it?
Well, we're very lucky here because the senior management are really, really about learning and development. They
Yeah.
piece the FTE, which be one full time employee, out of the operational side to make this learning and development role. If
Mm.
that I know. The benefits of it is just everything from staff retention
Mm.
to development to create people's strategic thinking, their lean way of thinking, understanding that processes sometimes are covered with non-value adding tasks, and being able to remove those non-value adding tasks from a lot of processes. And no matter what we do, there's a process behind it. Even with this podcast, there's a process you have. You come in, you introduce, you ask. There's a process in everything we do.
Yeah.
Um, it, in order to foster innovation is another good one. It's like when people think of innovation, they think of technology, but it's there's someone behind that technology.
Mm.
Someone has come up with those ideas, and that's what we're trying to do. Look, I also do some inductions here, and one of the main things I talk about in the induction is a continuous improvement mindset.
Yeah.
And it's just that you are consistently learning, and from every problem we can get some learnings
Yeah.
from every good or bad situation we can get some learnings from. And the last thing we want people to be doing inside here is to say, how is this done? That's the way it's always done.
Yeah.
We want people to think differently. We want people to question what we're doing. We people come in from different backgrounds, from different industries, from they're from different cultures, and by bringing those type of people together, and that diverse thinking, we can create some great innovation here. Like
Mm.
at the moment, I'm very much involved in the AI adoption
Yeah.
across the business, and how we can make AI a part of our everyday everyday kind of workspace, or make AI your digital assistant.
Yeah.
And like it's very interesting because we're looking for feedback all the time on that, and looking at how we can create a culture of learning around that, and how we can create a culture of people using that. And some of the feedback we're getting is very interesting. And again, it's just trying to keep people innovative, creating champions to be able to work within the teams,
Yeah.
delivering these AI models and large language models that can help them in their everyday tasks. Sorry.
And if we're just with the AI, right, is there a danger though that could would that take jobs, or even with even with the AI, if we say AI is part of, your operation as an employee, right, is developing the people skills then even more important kind of with that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look, that's one of the things that have come back in some of the surveys that we've done is that people are afraid that it'll come in and take their jobs. But you're either going to be in front of it or you're going to be behind it,
Yeah, really good. Yeah, yeah,
and like you have to get it, you have to get in front of these things. At the end of the day, okay, AI is, and someone said this to me recently, and I thought it was a great analogy that it's like a little baby
right.
but it has every single degree in the whole entire world. Like so when you're
Okay.
talking about a large language model like Copilot, like ChatGPT,
Yeah,
Gemini, whatever one you use, okay? So you have to treat it like a human. So it can still make mistakes, and those mistakes are called hallucinations. So at the end of the day, if you create efficiencies by using AI and say
mm,
your process would take 3 or 4 FTEs or
yeah,
full-time employees to do, and you've reduced that to 2, that sets those other 2 in to do more interesting work, to do
yeah,
stuff that, it's not like we're okay, we've now made saving of 1 FT, we're now going to hand someone a P45. That's
yeah,
not the way it
yeah,
goes. It means that, okay, no, let's look at what we can do next. What's the
yeah,
next innovative solution we can do? What do our clients need? Are our clients, do they need a new interface? Do they need something new in the market? Do they so it's looking at how we can use the efficiencies that we made
yeah,
to create more efficiencies, but as well make people's jobs a lot more interesting and just get rid of those mundane
yeah,
administrative tasks you have to do every day. Like who
yeah,
wants to do those? And like automation, reporting, a lot of this can be fixed through automation and AI, and even things like creating rotas. Like people don't understand how good AI is until they start playing with it and using
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I suppose it's up to me as a learning and development coordinator to try and develop people's mindset to be able to go and go do that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of lucky enough to do a few bits and pieces around emotional intelligence with she, and it's the
Yeah.
like first of all, the building is unreal. It's a savage
No,
building. Staff are lovely, but you have so many staff there, right? Massive amount of staff, different cultures and whatnot. How important are the kind of soft skills that you mentioned at the start of your intro, and those people skills with kind of getting ahead in not necessarily in your building now in your business, but in general.
oh, hugely important. Whether it's creating a mindset from working from home, because we work on a hybrid model where it's 3 days in, 2 days at home.
Yeah,
Look, and that's some people. Like me personally, I go to the gym in the morning, so I like to. And the gym is in town, and I'm
yeah,
very close to the office, so I like to come in every most days. Um, like so even just to build that mindset down to developing our management teams. Like I've worked with some fantastic coaches over the last couple of years,
yeah,
local coaches like Roger Kelleher, who works for a company called Idelia Limited, to some international coaches like Neil France and John Ireland. John Ireland just came over recently. John Ireland has worked extensively with a lot of sports people.
mm,
Um, in terms of his son actually is one of the psychologists at Bayern Munich. John Ireland is his name is John Ireland. He's from Widnes and he lives in Germany. So, but you know what? A fantastic human being. A pleasure to be around. He actually, while he was over doing some work with our management team last week, and I brought him up to the boxing club, and he did like I collected him and I said to him, John, look. First, he thought he was just coming up to see it, and on the
yeah.
Friday before he came over, I said, "You'll have a chat for 10 minutes with him, will you, John? What? You want me to talk?" I goes, "Yeah." So anyway, he jumped into the car when I collected him. Anyway, I goes, "Look, John, 10 minutes will be enough." He goes, "Peter, I don't do 10 minutes." He goes, "25 minutes, half an hour." So I said, "Oh, how are we going to keep?" I was worried that
Yeah,
he wouldn't be able to keep these kids engaged. Like a lot of these kids have dropped out of school. So you know, they're from difficult backgrounds, and you know, so I was worried about them, but you know, he brought them in, and you know, they really bought into it. You know,
Nice.
like 6 or 7 of them, like, and that's like if there was a class of 35 there. If 6 or 7 of them bought into this, and the problem I spoke to him, I suppose the problem that I spoke to him about was we have kids, they spar, they train like absolute animals, they get through the counties, they win Munsters, but as soon as they get up to the red chairs, we call them the red chairs, the national stadium,
Mm.
they freeze a bit. So how
Yeah.
can we control those nervous moments for them, you know? So he was fantastic. But just to kind of go back on the company, yeah, the soft skills are just they're huge, you know, and like I think now it's a must investment for companies to have these programs, you know.
Yeah.
Um, we also have development programs here, whether you want to become a people manager or a leader, or you want to become a technical leader where you're like a subject matter expert. We try and provide the training for you that when those positions arise and you go to them, that you're a bit more prepared for those
Yeah.
positions. And you know, a lot of those development paths will come with soft skills.
Brilliant.
My team and I the other day looked at you know, our new starters and what we can do for those guys, and you know, their first 100 days, what should that look like? What
Yeah.
type of soft skills training should they do? What type of technical training should they do? You know, to be introduced into the company. Do we need to have mentors? Do we need to train our mentors for everyone to work in the same way? So look, I couldn't speak highly enough about soft skills. I think that, you know, they're the difference between someone being happy and being sad, you know, and especially around leadership. I think they're huge in leadership in terms of, you know, that people can treat their teams in the correct way, that people are comfortable having those difficult conversations, that people feel respected in their teams, and yeah. So look, couldn't speak highly enough more of soft skills and the importance of it in a company.
That's brilliant. And anyone, I suppose, listening, make sure to have a look at Peter's LinkedIn. So was it this week you put up? He did some staff qualified in lean. Is it yellow belt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Jerry
keeping
Hussey
that.
was there recently. I saw only a couple of weeks ago. I'd say he was
Like,
brilliant, was he?
Dennis, you know, like when you hear, you know, don't meet your heroes, but
Yeah.
like, you know, like personally, especially over the summer, I was having a bit of a difficult time myself.
Yeah.
Like the boxing was finished up for the summer, you know, like my daughter doesn't live with me, so she's only there sort of part time.
Yeah.
And I just found the evenings just tough, you know,
Yeah.
like just trying to fill my time and things like that, you know. And like someone put me on to Jerry Hussey about, you know, that mindset and being able to develop it. I just got enthralled and I just consumed everything he had, you know, listened to his 2 audiobooks,
Yeah.
listened to a lot of podcasts. So then so I was thinking about bringing him in anyway
Yeah.
for a conversation to all staff.
Yeah.
And then Leah, we've contract with Leah as their medical provider,
Yeah.
and they kind of bring in speakers to us, and he
Yeah.
came in. So I was sitting at my desk. I thought it was a virtual event, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And next thing I looked, and I seen him walking into a room in Clare I smashed the headphones up. I ran down, sat down front row. But I had a brilliant conversation with him. Like, you know, afterwards, like, because Jerry Hussey background is boxing, like
Yeah.
so Jerry Hussey would have worked with the high performance unit in Dublin. Okay,
Mm.
so Jerry Hussey would actually have been one of the boxers on the high performance unit first.
Okay.
So Gary Keegan would have been the starter of the high performance unit. He came in actually a couple of years ago to Clare when we were up in the airport, and he spoke about, like, they had no like they wanted to install this high performance culture in boxing.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, they didn't even have anywhere to train. They were all sleeping on the floor up there. They would just get
Mm.
up, train, go for food, they'd sleep on the floor, get up, train. But Jerry Hussey would have been one of those. But he was telling me a brilliant story about, and it's all about the intricate details, you know,
Mm.
those little. So 2012 Olympics, at the time Katie Taylor was won a gold.
Yeah.
So they found out that where the boxing was being held was run by an Irish guy.
Yeah.
So as us all Irish stick together, the guys reached out to him
Yeah.
and said, "Is there any chance we can come over and have a look at the stadium beforehand?" And he was like, "No, no, no, no." And then eventually he said, "All right, you've got an hour."
Yeah.
So Jerry Hussey and a couple of the guys from the high performance unit got a load of Irish gear, threw it in a bag, jumped on a flight to London, went over anyway, and they littered. So they went into the dressing room. The ring now, nothing was set up really for
Yeah.
the Olympics at this point, but they littered the dressing room with all Irish gear. Got out a video camera and videoed the dressing room and then videoed the walk out to the ring. Then they asked them at the time what was the loudest event that they had in that venue, and they told them they took the sound from that event and added it to the video.
Class.
So the high performance boxers, before they even got there, had were after doing that walk 200 times. So
Yeah.
when they had to do the walk, they were comfortable in that situation, you
Brilliant.
know, and that's where people feel the nerves. They're walking out.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you a story about one of our boxers there. Like I knew he was nervous. Every 2 seconds, he was like, "I need some water." When he was up in the national stadium,
Yeah.
"I need some water. I need some water. I need some water." When he was walking down to the ring, that's when they get the most nerves. You know,
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. You know, it was just, and it's just those intricate little details
Yeah.
that that can be the difference of you losing a fight or winning a fight. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. That's really good. I want to bring you back to the poker thing, right? Because that's unreal. And like, first of all, I look, I have a vague understanding of poker, but like, is it what makes a good poker player? Is it like being able to keep the stony face, you can't give it away? Is it something to do with numbers? Is it understanding of numbers? What is it?
Bankroll management is actually the probably, and I, you know, it's actually like as a professional,
Yeah.
it's probably the most important. Like my bankroll management was shocking, to be honest with you, you know, and like it probably put me out of the game in the end, you know.
What do you mean by bankroll management? What do you mean
So,
by money?
so really, you should never be playing stakes that are too high for you.
Okay.
You should never be playing stakes that are too low for you.
Okay.
If you win a few quid, you shouldn't go away and buy a car out of it. You know,
Yeah.
that's the, and you should just be taking a wage, and you should run this like a job.
Okay.
You
Right.
know, of course, look, if you go and you win 10 or 15 grand or something, you go on a little holiday, that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
but like in general, you should be getting a structured wage every week. You should be taking whatever 400 or 500 quid every single week out of that, and
Mm.
that's a wage or whatever wage you're going to give
Yeah.
yourself. Um, and things so to become you know, to be able to be consistent in the game, because there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows.
Okay.
It's a very stressful it's a very stressful way to live your life, to be honest with you. A very stressful way. As I said, like for me, I was either very rich or very poor a lot of the
Yeah.
times, you know. And when you're very poor and you're losing, that can become super stressful, you know.
Yeah.
And if you had that backroll management where when you did have the highs and you didn't just blow all your money,
Yeah. With even line
you
with.
would be able to take the lows a lot more, you know.
Yeah.
And
Makes
that's
sense.
that's more of a mindset thing. Now, if strategic thinking, I think is a good way, like how to be able to manage the table. You have
Yeah.
to understand like people's patterns. You know, the way people are betting is a big thing. You know, so Like a lot of people say, oh, you look into someone's eyes and you can read people. That's not how people read people. People
Okay.
read people by betting patterns. People read people by, look, this guy always bets big when he has it. This guy always bets small when he doesn't have it.
Okay.
This guy every time, like in poker, it's very positionally based. So where you're sitting at the table and where this dealer button is very important in the game. Like you may play a hand if the dealer button's on you, but if the dealer button is next to you on your right, you won't play the same hand. It's we could be here for 10 hours speaking about
Yeah.
this, but it's yeah, it's very important for that. Again, risk management, I suppose, is a good one as well.
Yeah.
That your bankroll is right, so you can manage that risk of when you are going down, and just a positive mindset, not getting too stressed out. I know you're a red to blue practitioner.
Yeah.
I have my red to blue band on at the moment, and it's. I wish I had that in at the time, because
Yeah.
tilt, it's called, is when your head is just gone.
Okay.
And poker is the only game is you can do everything right and still lose, because at the end of the day there is an element of luck involved. You could play brilliant for 3 days, but at the end of the day, if you have ace king and someone has two queens and all the money goes in the middle and there's five cards to come, the luck is whether you're going to hit an ace or a king and he doesn't hit it and they don't hit a queen. And
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, you've done nothing wrong in that position. It's a monster hand. They have a monster hand. You clash, and you're either in or you're out. You either have a monster stacker thing, and look, you can do everything right. Like
Yeah.
some of the lows can be torture. Then it's like
Okay.
torture. Like, many a time I've just jumped in my car and Galway. I've gone off to play a tournament or wherever I am around the country, and I booked into a hotel for 4 or 5 days. I paid it up. I've gone into the main event, looking forward to this tournament. I spent 1,500 to buy into the tournament, and I busted after 2 hours, and I'm back down the road. And on top of that, I'm after spending 500 or 600 on a hotel as well.
Yeah.
Everything went up and diesel going down, so it's an expensive life to lead.
Yeah.
A lot of times your money is going, especially when you're playing live poker. A lot of the time your money is going on hotels and you
Okay.
know, like food, drink, things like that. If like I used to go play around Europe. We went out to Bulgaria one time, playing in a place called Golden Sands. It was just
Wow.
us and a load of Russians.
Oh, Jesus.
I played in private games in Stamford Bridge.
Wow.
Yeah, I was put into a huge game over there one time. Um,
You might have to tell me about that off camera if there was any famous.
that's definitely an off-camera story.
Can I ask you a question, right? And again, this is my ignorance. But like, if you're playing online, is there a danger that you're playing against a computer? Do you get me? That it's a rigged, yeah, a bot. That it's kind of like a rigged game.
Yeah. Look, they have tech in there to try and avoid that, but
Yeah.
it's unavoidable. And there has been some huge scandals. Like I remember one of the sites, Ultimate Bet, back in the poker boom days. There was a couple of people that could see your cards. They were after doing something in the servers. There was someone in the inside that done something in the servers, so they were playing. But like they started making the most. They couldn't. Their greed got the best of them. They
Yeah.
could probably still be playing to this day, making a living off it.
Yeah.
But their greed got the better, and they started making ridiculous calls and hands and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. We're coming to the end there now, Peter. So I just have a five quick fire questions for you, right? So, what are you most proud of?
Perfect. Yeah. Being a father and just everything that brings me. She is everything to me. If you asked me the day before my daughter was born, did I want a kid? I probably, I would have been on the fence about it. But the second she came,
It's mad.
I, I I cried every time I look at her for the first 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's lovely.
and still to this day, like she just does things that just brings a tear to my eye. Like she's everything to me. Everything. Like
Brilliant.
this is everything to me. So yeah, like there's nothing I'm more proud of in my life than being a father.
That's brilliant, man. Fair play. Your dream holiday destination?
Japan.
Japan. Oh, very good. Okay, okay. What is what's the one thing that scares the life out of you? Now it could be spiders, it can be something bigger, but what would be
Rodents, like, and it doesn't have to be just a rat, a mouse, anything. Like, I'm just freaks me out. Like,
yeah.
so I was out the other day and a couple of weeks ago, and I was mowing my garden out down in Glanmire, out the
Yeah.
back. And whatever way I looked, I nearly stood on a dead rat. And if you heard the scream out of me, being a good neighbour, I said, look, I better go in and tell the neighbours that there's a rat around, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of my neighbours was out in the garden with me. They're an older couple, like they wouldn't be the chattiest, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but you know they're great. But look, and I said to them, oh, I goes, listen, I just found a rat out the back. I just want to tell you, just keep your doors and stuff shut, just in case. Oh yeah, he's been around for ages. My son has been calling him Super Rat for ages because he keeps doing the poison. And I was like, it's like only one of us has been a good neighbor around here.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
When you said there, you let out the scream. I just had a vision of Flanders from The Simpsons, where they thought it was a thing thing. I might try and cut the two of them together now or something for a promo.
Hopefully, hopefully.
I suppose, what's your biggest ambition? And this could be in life or career, in your career.
um,
Left to fulfill, obviously.
yeah, it's a good question. What's my biggest ambition? Dennis, you should have sent me these beforehand. Um, so you know what? Again, like I'm just gonna go back to just being a dad, like just being as good a dad as possible to Holly, just to make sure that I'm providing for her, but like, be a provider in terms of what she needs, but be a provider for emotionally as well. Like I think that's more important, that she understands, and we can able to teach her the right things, and it's something that I really want to do in the boxing club as well. Is that it's more important for me to develop people as human beings than it is, as I said earlier, as a champion,
Yeah.
and that's what I want to do as well with Holly. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing better than having 3 or 4 All-Ireland titles and kind of rubbing it at other clubs' faces. But but again, at the same breath, like when you sit back and look at your life and look at whatever legacy might be the wrong word, but look
Mm.
back and look at what you've done. Hopefully, think like my father was a boxing coach for 40 years.
I remember you told me
Uh,
that before, yeah.
yeah, so like I still have people. Cause like it's funny, I'm coaching some of the kids of
Yeah,
the boxers that my dad would have coached,
yeah,
and like they'll all hold so much high esteem for him. It's great to see.
yeah.
I've never no one has a bad word for him about him apart from me. But no, he's a good man, and yeah. So look, just be able to set Holly on the right path and be able to provide.
Do you know what? That's 4 questions, but I think that's the absolute perfect way to finish, man. Because Peter, this has been a brilliant chat. I'm lucky enough to have met you there, over a year ago, and get to work with you and stuff. But this has been enlightening. And I know people who will hear this will say, "Geez, we know this is the Peter we know." But
Yeah,
this has been a brilliant chat. Absolutely fantastic way to finish. I just want to say thanks so much for your time, man, and thanks again for coming on.
and thanks, Dennis, and best of luck now with the podcast and all that. Really appreciate it.
No matter what. Cheers.
All right.